Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today is the 4th of January 2021. And what a day and weekend it has been, everyone. So I'm sure you're all very aware of the price action over the last, 24, maybe 48 hours in Ethereum. It's basically the last 24 hours, really, where it's just gone absolutely insane. You can see here on my screen, I've got a chart up here. We basically, hung around the 700s for a little while here, for a few days. This is the 1 hour chart. And then on the second, for some reason, we just decided to kind of explode up here. So we went up, up, and then bam. We just went through 800, 900, and the 1000s within 24 hours. So we ended up going all the way up to 1168. Kind of did a blow off top up there. And then we've come down now. And at time of recording, we're at about the 960 level here. So this has been a crazy 24 hours, I think, for Ethereans. Obviously we all felt a bit crappy over the last few weeks as BTC continued to run up and the ETH BTC ratio kind of fell, and ETH wasn't really doing anything against US dollar. It was just kind of following Bitcoin. And then we just had this explosive reversal here, which, even caught me off guard. I kind of expected this reversal, considering kind of past, precedent that we've seen within the market. But I was just so blindsided. I looked at it and I'm like, this is insane. And, I looked away from the charts at one point. We broke through 800. I was like, okay, cool. Finally, we got through 800. And then I looked away for a few minutes and I came back and we're almost at 900. And I was like, what was that, basically? Like, that was just insane. And then the market just seemed to explode up more. And we went up to, over 1100. And everyone was kind of like, that I was talking to was like, we go an all-time high now, like all-time high tonight sort of thing. It was looking like that at that point. You can see in the chart here just how parabolic this kind of thing was, even on the hour chart. But all these things kind of have to come to an end to kind of wipe out a lot of the greed that was happening. It was kind of an extreme greed kind of area up here. So I think that's what ended up happening. We've come down. We may come down even further from here. I don't know. I think it's quite bullish that, we're just basically back at the price we were 12 hours ago. So, people are like, oh, it dumped. And it's like, well, I mean, it's just 12 hours ago. So I guess if you bought in this kind of area up here, you're not feeling too great right now. But yeah, I mean, it depends kind of like what your investment horizon is, long-term, short-term, whatever. So that's been quite explosive. And of course, due to the price action, gas prices have spiked a lot on chain, which I'm going to talk about a bit later. So definitely feeling the pain there myself, trying to do a few transactions, being extremely expensive. So I think at this point, I'm just going to wait a little bit and hope it calms down. But yeah, I definitely know the pain there. Also, I put out my 2020 recap of Ethereum on the weekend. So it's 2.5 hour video for you to watch if you haven't checked it out yet. It's on the YouTube channel, of course. I had to condense this, way. It was longer than 2.5 hours. I had to kind of condense a bunch of things, close out a bunch of updates not to go over, because so many things ended up happening in 2020. It was just insane. And I could have talked for like probably more than 5 hours about it, but I figured 2.5 hours was already a kind of ridiculously long video. But at the same time, I mean, I wasn't going to gloss over things. I really wanted to get everything that happened out there and wanted to kind of like make sure that, everyone knew just how big of a year Ethereum had. So yeah, if you've got 2.5 hours to spare, you can go check that out. I guess like the TLDR I put in the kind of like description here, or the tweet here. Basically, DeFi summer was obviously a defining part of the year. ETH outperforming BTC towards the end of the year, and ETH2 Phase 0 going live. Those are like the three key highlights, I think, in terms of high level of what happened. But so many different things happened in, inside of that. So definitely go check out that video if you haven't yet. I also put out my 2021 predictions for Ethereum over the weekend. So I'm very confident in a bunch of these predictions. So I'll go through them line by line. I'm very confident ETH is going to outperform BTC this year, given that ETH tends to perform better in a bull market than BTC does. I am confident in and I hope that non-USD stablecoins will gain traction this year. Obviously, we've seen the explosion in stablecoins over the last few months, but it's been USD dominated. And for me, as someone who lives in Australia, all my expenses are in AUD, right? And I hold fiat in AUD. Being in USD exposes me, one, to tax obligations when I go back to AUD, which is really annoying, and volatility as well. The volatility is insane. So I really hope to see AUD stablecoins and other fiat kind of non-USD stablecoins get traction here so that I can actually earn a yield on that without having to worry about the volatility and the taxes associated with kind of like the currency pairs there. And I know that I'm not alone there. There are a lot of people in Europe as well that I'm sure would love to use the euro and the pound and things like that. I guess Britain's not in the EU anymore. But anyway, non-USD still there, and especially in like Asian countries as well, like Singapore dollar and things like that. The whole industry is denominated in USD, but as soon as you exit the industry and you go back to your own home country where you have tax obligations, it becomes really, really annoying. And it's been super annoying for me trying to earn a yield on my USD within DeFi, and then having to go back to AUD and having to calculate the tax that I owe there. So a lot of the times I don't even actually do it. What I'll do is I'll just borrow against my ETH, some USD, yield farm with that basically, and then I won't have those kind of obligations there because I'm not going back to AUD, right? But it's just, it's super annoying. So I really hope to see that take off, and I do think it will. They will gain traction because the space is bigger than USD. It's bigger than the US, and we definitely need adoption there. I believe layer 2 adoption will skyrocket this year. I've discussed this, many times already on the Refuel, but basically the TLDR is that 2020 had layer 2 going live on mainnet. We had the solutions come to fruition, optimistic rollups, ZK rollups. Those are the two things that we're going to be using mainly. And I think that in 2021, we're going to have a bunch of apps like Synthetics and Uniswap go on to layer 2, which will cause I guess a standard to be set of which layer 2s we're going to use, and then we're also going to have technology like Vector from Connext connecting these layer 2s together. And that's how we're going to get adoption here, especially since the gas prices are so high as well. It's going to push people to these layer 2s, whether they like it or not. I think we're going to see like liquidity mining programs to get people on layer 2, reward users, and basically make layer 2 a first-class citizen on Ethereum so that people don't feel like they've gone to like a dead chain or a zombie chain or whatever within the layer 2 ecosystem. They feel like they're getting the same experience as layer 1, but just much better, right? Way cheaper to transact, way faster to transact, way more liquidity because of those two things and things like that. So I think in 2021 is going to be the year that layer 2 really, really takes off finally on Ethereum. And it couldn't come at a better time, right? Considering that the gas prices are so high right now. I mean, as I'm recording, I can see on gas now here, it's at 500 Gwei. I think it's a standard transaction, and 600 for rapid. That is insane. To put that into context, even a simple ETH send at these gas prices is about $10, which is one of the cheapest things you can do on Ethereum, whereas complex smart contract interactions are probably going to be costing you a few $100s. That's obviously unsustainable. It is not something that most people can afford to do. Layer 2 adoption can't come at a better time. Speaking of gas on Ethereum, I believe EIP 1559 will go live this year. For those who aren't aware, this is the Ethereum improvement proposal to basically introduce fee burning to ETH so that a little bit of ETH is burned every time that a fee is paid. And it also is going to improve the fee mechanism so that we can have better fee estimations on Ethereum. So there's not just wild volatility there. So I believe that's going live this year. It's already been implemented in the clients. It just hasn't been put onto mainnet, which is obviously a longer process, but I think we'll see that later in the year. This actual prediction, this one here where I said ETH2 phase 1 will go live, that's the one that's the most optimistic. I think that we can get phase 1 live this year if we really, really try. But I think at the moment in the ETH2 space, the research and development is split between phase 1 and the ETH1 to ETH2 merger, because those two things are pretty, equally important and both need to happen. So I guess, depending on what resources are spent to kind of like research and develop these things, I think we can see ETH2 phase 1 go live this year. but that's the optimistic case, right? I think, this prediction might be one that I end up getting wrong, and we might just see it in 2022, but I wanted to put it out there just in case. I think that we can. I mean, I haven't seen anything that would be major blockers to this, except resourcing. Having people as resources and making sure that we have the right people working on the right things. If the ETH1 to ETH2 merger needs more love, then I'd rather we focus on that than try and rush phase one out the door, because I think the merger is more important. But I don't even expect to see the merger till 2022 either. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. And this last prediction as well, where I said DeFi tokens will replace most of the dead coins in the top 30 cryptos. I mean, this is a no-brainer to me. If you go through the top 30 on like CoinGecko, there are so many dead coins in there. Things that are just completely dead projects. They don't do anything. They don't have any transactions. They don't have any economic activity. It's just insane that they're still in the top 30. I don't get it. I mean, I think I've mentioned on the refuel before that it's just a function of basically the market kind of like being, still very immature and putting value on things that don't deserve to have value on them, or premiums on them, essentially. One of those things is different layer ones. I think, Bitcoin and Ethereum are the only layer ones right now that have any kind of meaningful adoption, whereas a lot of the other ones still don't, and people are pricing them as if they do. Which is quite insane to me. I remember at one point, like there was some Ethereum killers priced at like 5% of ETH's market cap. This was a few months ago, not now. And at the time, I thought that was insane because these things don't have 5% of Ethereum's use. So why is their market cap so high? And I think it was a function of the market being immature and a bunch of other things. And it's not just the other layer ones as well. There's a bunch of things in there that just like completely just dead. I looked at it, and I think the only project when I looked at it that was in there was Synthetics. The rest of them weren't in there. So I expect a lot of re-rating and repricing of coins to happen. The top 10 is even worse, but I don't even know what's happening there. I mean, I figured something like Litecoin wouldn't be in the top 10 anymore, but it's literally number 4 behind, it's BTC, ETH, XRP, LTC. And I think with LTC, it's a function of the fact that it has regulatory pass because it's literally just a fork of Bitcoin. So it always gets added to these platforms. Like when PayPal announces they're doing crypto, they said, oh, we're doing BTC, ETH, LTC, and BCH, right? So I think it's just going to stay around. It's like a cockroach, basically. But other than that, there's a bunch in there that I was thinking about it the other day. Could you imagine if the stock market top 10 was like Kodak, Blockbuster, right? All these kind of things that were like zombies essentially and didn't have any economic value left in them. Imagine if they were still in the top 10 of the stocks in the world, right? It's just a function of immaturity in the crypto markets. As time goes on, as more mature players come in, we are going to see that drastically change. And I think that's going to begin this year with DeFi tokens replacing most of the dead coins in the top 30. Another tweet I put out today was this indicator that I've been watching for a few months now, and I decided to kind of finally put it out there because, I was watching it with interest, thinking, this could actually be an indicator that is going to play out and kind of predict when there's going to be a market top or a cycle top. And I didn't have confirmation until recently. And for those of you who can see my screen, you can actually see the chart here. So what this indicator is, it's basically a chart that follows the monthly gained followers for Twitter accounts. So I normally look at the big crypto Twitter accounts here. So you can see on the chart, Vitalik gained a lot of followers during 2017, but not until mid to late 2017. And then by the end and early 2018, it went parabolic. And that's obviously when all the prices went parabolic of crypto and everything like that, which signaled the market top. Now you can see during 2018 and 2019, it was basically flat, right? Nothing was really happening. And even January 2020 until about mid to late 2020, it was still relatively flat. And then it started picking up. And this is what I was waiting for. It started picking up, and it really started picking up recently, which makes a lot of sense as Bitcoin crossed all-time highs, right? December, January, even November to an extent, it started picking up, and I figured, okay, this indicator is actually going to be reliable this time. So, if you see, in terms of absolute numbers, I expect this to go higher than what we saw in 2017, late 2017, early 2018. But I think once you see this chart go parabolic, it's probably signaling that the cycle top is near. And what I mean by that, there's the bull and bear cycles, and I believe that it's probably signaling that a bull cycle top is near, and you basically, obviously want to get out at that point. Now, this indicator isn't perfect. There's only one precedent for this. You can see in the chart here. And I think that the wider kind of like, I guess like people in general know more about crypto now than they did, and they've heard of it before, right? I mean, most people have heard of Bitcoin at least once at this stage. So the market is different now, and we have institutional players coming in. The asset class is maturing. But at the same time, things are still going to get crazy. I mean, we just saw ETH jump from, 700s to over 1,000 in 24 hours. It doesn't matter if there's big money coming in. It doesn't dampen the volatility to an extent, until the market caps are really high. So in saying that, I'm still going to be monitoring this metric here. If it goes parabolic, I will, there's this, and I'm not just going to use this as the only metric I monitor, right? I'm going to be using this. I'm going to be using the price, of course, and like how quickly it's moved, basically, in a short period of time. I'm also going to be using just general sentiment, general kind of like noise in the markets. If these other random coins are just pumping like crazy, there's a bunch of indicators you can use, and you have to take them as a collective. You can't just look at one and think, oh, okay, that one's like really high, I'm going to sell based on that. It doesn't work like that. And you won't catch the tops, right? And you won't catch the bottoms. You'll never catch it unless you're really lucky. You might get lucky, but there's no way to time it. Even if you started selling ETH at the end of 2017 here, right? You would have sold ETH before its top. It basically doubled from January 3rd to January 13th, which was in 2018, which was its all-time high at 1,400. So you would have sold, at like 700 based on this indicator, and then you would have missed that whole move, right? So you didn't pick the top. You didn't even pick anywhere close to the top. So, I mean, obviously you probably still felt good about your sale, but at the end of the day, picking tops and bottoms is impossible. I mean, I think I've told the story before how I tried to pick the bottom in 2018 for ETH. I bought at 220 and I bought a large sum at 220 thinking, okay, this is the bottom for ETH. I'm going to load up here and we're going to be good, right? I underestimated that how long the bear market would go for. ETH obviously ended up dropping to $80 after that. And also, 2019 was a very bad year for ETH in terms of performance. So I, didn't succeed in timing the bottom, but obviously in hindsight, $220 was an amazing buy at this point, right? Just two years later or 2.5 years later, or something like that. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that you have to come to terms with. If you have some sell targets that you want to sell at, stick to them, right? Don't try and change things. Maybe you change things based on where you think the market's going, but if you've had long time sell targets, moving them up and up and up is how you don't get them reached, right? And then you end up not selling, you feel even worse. Selling early can suck, but I think at a point, not selling and then watching it just dump and hoping for it to go back up, and then basically missing the fact that we've started another bear market hurts even more. So, I tend to not look at prices of crypto when I sell. I look at kind of like how much money I kind of would like to make in the optimistic case, and then in the real case, right? And reality. That's not investment advice. Everyone's situation is different, but trying to trying to time tops and bottoms is near impossible. If your investment strategy or sales strategy is based on that, it is a risky game to play, but you do you at the end of the day. But yeah, so I'll be sharing more of this indicator as time goes on, but it's just one that I'll be looking at as we progress through this bull market. Speaking of the price action, Camilla Russo put out this really great tweet yesterday or a few hours ago, I think. So basically she said that the last time ETH crossed $1,000, there was no Compound, Aave, Uniswap, Synthetics, Curve, Yearn, Balancer. There was no DeFi, basically. And then she says, it's amazing how far this army of hackers has come. And this is like so totally true. There was literally no DeFi. When ETH crossed 1K in January of 2018, the only DeFi, I mean, it wasn't even known as DeFi, but the only thing that was on mainnet in kind of like any workable fashion was MakerDAO. I think 0x had some demos going. There was Ether Delta, which was the original decentralized exchange, but none of that stuff was known as DeFi. Ether Delta was very primitive. It was basically an order book exchange on Ethereum's mainnet where each kind of trade was a transaction. So you can imagine that was clunky and expensive for the time, nowhere near as expensive as what it is today. But just in, I guess, like the last 3 years, 2018, 19, and 20, particularly 2019 and 20, we've built out this amazing, incredible DeFi ecosystem on Ethereum that has catapulted Ethereum to basically being the most used blockchain. It's used more than Bitcoin in terms of fees paid and kind of transactions and things like that. So, I mean, yeah, as someone who lived through the bull and bear cycle, it's very different today. You'll see people often say that we didn't deserve kind of ETH at 1K plus the first time, and I totally agree with that. We didn't. That was all fueled by, majority of it was fueled by ICO speculation, which hilariously enough, it's like basically non-existent today, right? People aren't even using ETH as a medium of exchange for any token sales, really. Sometimes they do, but it's a lot of stable coins now. And that's another thing we didn't even have in 2017. We had Tether that wasn't on Ethereum, and that was very small compared to today. And now we have a kind of ecosystem of stablecoins. So looking back and just like, sitting back, looking back, is just, it's amazing to see how far we've come. And that's why I always kind of play the long games here. I try to zoom out and make sure that I'm not losing focus of where we were, how far we've come, and where we have to go. And I think that Ethereum has the brightest future out of anything right now. ETH is going to come along for the ride, of course. And I've never been more bullish on Ethereum going forward. It's just, I do like what I do because I'm so like excited about it. But I hope that you all are too, because we're just getting started, really. And I think this tweet kind of encapsulates that. All right, so I spoke about this Haiku book last week on the last Daily Gwei Refuel. For those who didn't catch that episode, this is a book of haikus that were posted to the ETH Finance and ETH Trader daily threads every day for, I think, over 200 days. So in this book, you can basically, you can see the book here. It's really nicely designed. It's got like Ethereum theme around it. And in there, you'll see a bunch of haikus that you can read. It's like something that you can put on your coffee table, basically. So this was put together by Ethereum community member Crocodile Man Chen with collaboration from Kiter and also the haikus from Single State Serenity. The first haiku was posted on January 1st, 2019. And then, they continued for a while from there. So you can buy this on Amazon. I'll link this in the YouTube description, the website. But for those of you listening, it's thehaikubook.org. So you can buy it on Amazon and a bunch of different places. I've already ordered my copy, of course. And you can also buy some NFTs on Rarible if you want to check that out. So the link's here as well. They're pretty cool NFTs. So I suggest going to check those out. But just wanted to give a shout out that you can go now buy that book. Oh, let's load this up here. So Illuvium, a new crypto or Ethereum-based game, was announced over the weekend. It's actually being made by Kane Warwick of Synthetics' brother, which was quite funny, and I think a lot of people got hyped about that. They're like the Warwick, brothers coming to dominate Ethereum, basically. But there's not too much information about this crypto game or Ethereum game yet. They're saying they're going to go live in Q2 of this year, and they're going to be using Immutable's Layer 2 solution called Immutable X, which is a very easy way to trade in-game items for zero gas fees and incredibly efficiently and quickly. So I think the game is basically, what is it? I read through it, but as I said, there's not much information yet. But I think they put out a recent update, actually. I'll bring that up here. I remember seeing this. So they put out an update here about their gameplay. So basically, the player is a survival of a vessel that crashes on a broken alien world, rich with varied climates and a vast shattered ocean engulfing most of the land. Powerful beasts roam the world. Could this be Illuvium, the mythical cradle of civilization? So they're going for kind of like a high fantasy thing here. And the gameplay, they have different classes that you can play with: a fighter, guardian, rogue, scion, and empath, which is basically like they match up to traditional RPG classes. So it seems like this is going to be an RPG. There's combat, there's capture. You can kind of capture, I think, different beasts and things like that and evolve them and stuff like that. And then experience and leveling, of course. So basically like a high fantasy RPG on Ethereum. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things to collect, right? There's going to be a lot of people trading these things. It's going to be quite cool to see. I'm very hyped about Ethereum-based gaming or crypto gaming in general going forward, and like NFTs and things like that. So definitely going to be keeping an eye on this. But if you haven't checked it out yet, the link is in the YouTube description for you to go have a look. So the Parity Wallet hacker began moving their ETH this week. So for those who don't know, the Parity multi-sig is famous for all the wrong reasons. So it's a smart contract that lived on Ethereum. It still lives there, but for a different reason. I'll get into that. But basically what ended up happening in 2017 was that a hacker was able to drain a bunch of ETH out of this wallet. And they were stopped from draining all of the ETH due to a white hat hacker coming in and taking out the rest of it. But they managed to get away with 150,000 ETH, which is roughly $30 million at the time of the hack, to this vulnerability. So they began moving their ETH, and what they've done with it, they've basically gone to Ren BTC and has taken that Ren BTC to the Bitcoin network, which I assume to cash out, right? To try and do so anonymously. And for those who aren't aware, this multi-sig is actually the same one, or the smart contract is the same one that ended up being frozen on the Ethereum network. So in 2017, same year, at the end of 2017, I think, what ended up happening was that someone deleted a smart contract library on Ethereum, which bricked this contract, which means that no one could interact with it, and all the ETH in it was frozen. So everyone who had ETH in the Parity multisig had their ETH frozen. This was huge news at the time, especially because it was the second hack of this same multisig. And then after this, of course, Parity retired this multisig, and those funds have been stuck ever since. Some people have tried to revive them. There is the famous EIP 999. You can go Google that. That is basically the EIP that says we should unstuck these funds on Ethereum. And that what that would require is basically altering the Ethereum state. And people said, no, we're not doing this. We already did this for the DAO. We're not doing it again. So yeah, I think it's a ton of Ethereum that's stuck in there right now. I think 500,000 or something ETH that's stuck in there. And that's probably going to be forever stuck in there at this point. So unfortunate for the people who had their ETH in the multi-sig, but at the same time, the argument at the time and over the years was that we're not going to save, the Parity funds, because then it opens the floodgates to basically saving everyone else's frozen funds, right? And then, all manner of things. It basically opens Pandora's box and it cannot be shut again. So it's something that the community decided on not pursuing. So I was speaking about Layer 2 before, and how I thought 2021 is going to be the year of adoption. And I've spoken about the team Optimism before and how they're working on their optimistic rollup technology. So they are going to be releasing their first kind of soft mainnet on January 15th. That is only 11 days away. So we're very, very close here. So what they're doing is a trial run. It's going to be on mainnet. They're going to be doing this with Synthetics. So Synthetics has actually been using optimistic rollups and Optimism's technology on a kind of test net with SNX staking, and before that they did a trading competition as well. But this one on January 15th will be a soft launch of the OVM mainnet, and then they expect to release their public or community version of this mainnet on March 15th, so in another 2 and a bit months here. This, I think, there's going to be two major winners in the Layer 2 scaling space. It's going to be Optimism with their optimistic rollup technology, and a few other teams like Fuel as well. And the other technology that's going to win is going to be ZK rollups or zero knowledge rollups, which is the same rollup technology but using a different implementation of it. And the front runner there are Starkware and the Matter Labs, and there's a bunch of other teams. I'm not going to name all of them, but those are, I think, the solutions that we're going to be seeing a lot more of. So this is big news. And I think Optimism going live with a huge protocol like Synthetics is going to be great for adoption. There's rumors that Uniswap is also going to go live with a Layer 2 implementation, which I think is going to change the game, because, most people that I guess are newer to this ecosystem will use Uniswap as one of their first DeFi apps. So those are the people we need to be targeting with this sort of stuff, especially if they don't have, too much money they want to play with. You don't want to eat into that money on with kind of, I guess, all these fees, right? So I'm actually curious to see if Uniswap incentivizes liquidity to move with more uni farming, right? That's in governance's hands. They can't do it themselves, but they hold a lot of uni in the team tokens and stuff. So maybe they can do it themselves and can vote for it. But yeah, I think that basically we're going to see a lot of craziness over the next couple months, Q1, Q2, in terms of getting things to mainnet. And then Q3, Q4 of this year, we might see adoption. Well, I believe we'll see adoption pretty much skyrocket here. So exciting things coming for Ethereum's layer 2 ecosystem. So I have gasnow.org up here, which is a gas monitoring website. For a reason. So I was talking about before how the gas prices are ridiculous. I mean, I think I've spoken about it many times on the Refuel. But basically right now, at time of recording, you can see that the gas prices are incredibly high, right? 500 for a rapid transaction, which means getting it into one Ethereum block, 201 for a fast transaction, which is, average of a minute. And you can see it fluctuating, right? As I was talking, it went from 500 to 284 to 311 on rapid. And these fluctuations are due to the inefficient kind of gas price model that Ethereum currently uses, and EIP 1559 is actually aiming to address this. So right now it's like an auction model where everyone tries to outbid each other to get their transactions in, whereas with EIP 1559, at least until it reaches capacity and it flows over to the auction model, the transaction pricing is basically static and set in kind of like stone here, and is not like based on this kind of auction model. So it actually smoothens things out. But yeah, you can see as you're watching the video and as I'm talking, it just changes so much, and it's very hard to estimate how much gas you have to pay. In one block, you can end up paying 500 for rapid transactions. The next block, it can be 200, right? And that's like half the price of a transaction. And also what happens is that estimating it is very hard. So what GasNow does is it actually looks forward. So during the 15 seconds between blocks, what ends up happening is that they fill up with transactions, right? The mempool, so before transactions go into an Ethereum block, they go into what's called a mempool. And during the time in the mempool, you can have transactions, all trying to outbid each other. So this is what GasNow tries to do, is tries to monitor the mempool instead of like historical transaction fees. And that's why it's updating so rapidly. So and it's very hard to estimate because of that, because you can have at the start of the block people putting in, rapid transactions down at like 300 or something like that. And then as we get later in the block, in those 15 seconds, people are like, I want my transaction in now. I need it in right now. And they put like a 600 rapid price in, right? Which pushes out some of the cheaper ones, right? The cheaper Gwei that people have paid. And this happens all the time. So it's incredibly hard to estimate. With EIP 1559, it won't happen during, I guess, the base fee. But when it gets to like the tip, which is like surge pricing, then we revert back to this model. So it's not a panacea. It's not going to cure all our ills, but at least ETH will be being burned as well, right? So I can't wait for that to go live this year. That's going to be huge. But in general, just know that I think everyone feels the pain of gas prices. I've written in the Daily Gwei before why I think high gas prices are actually bullish for Ethereum. And I actually think they're incredibly healthy. I guess to summarize my post, I think it's incredibly healthy because it encourages people to adopt layer 2, which was an inevitability anyway. So if gas prices were like still at 10 Gwei, like no one was looking at layer 2. They were like, oh, it's a cool little research thing. Maybe I'll look at it later. Now everyone's like, okay, my app is getting hammered. Use cases are getting priced out. I need to move to layer 2, basically. And that's what we're seeing. So that's kind of like the TLDR there. And I think, yeah, as I've said, we're going to see 2021 be a big year for Ethereum layer 2. But yeah, that's what all I've got for you guys today. We'll see what ETH price does by the time I record another Daily Gwei Refuel tomorrow. Maybe it'll be up over 1,000 again. I guess we'll see. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching and listening. Give the video a thumbs up if you haven't yet. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, join the Discord, and subscribe to the Daily Gwei newsletter. And I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.